Lost is the natural world of languages, to premonition, intuition, incantation, invocation. I learned to speak the lingo of crows long ago in antediluvian vowels. I Google search a word which means without words. There isn't one. So, in other words, there's no word for no word. Closest word I find is hebmaye. I stumble upon a word for love, dwindai-gara-dei, Welsh. I'm reminded of my grandma in a language beyond words to convey. I stand breathless in the doorway at the hospice. It feels like the portal to Bardo, between the blurry lines of birth and death. I've come to visit my grandma 9, 101.5. She laughs in the face of her epitaph. And then she asked me to join her on her journey through death. Cradfar. I say, absolutely, yes. So we begin the dance of Marraweh. We do not know the steps, and yet we dance, Dara wide. Together we move forward. We dip our toes into the other side as if to test imagination's crest like a Holyhead coastline tide. And then we return to this realm, half glorified. We catch our breath, no time between our stars. We know we do not know where we are going. She reaches her bony hands into the twilight hour, and she tells me, it's snowing, it's snowing. I see her taste frozen light on her tongue, in a language of betwixt and between. When I was young, she taught me to tie my laces, to tell time, to sound out each letter. Now, she shows me how to walk through Enmaru. She speaks in the language of soul. We share eyes, surrender control, and then we dance again. We dip our feet into the other side and then return again fortified. Next we go deeper, up to our ankles, our shins, our knees. No time between our stars until we are magnified Pleiades. Now we know where we are going. We are waist deep, and then we are up to our necks in death. 9 looks over and into me for her final breath in the language of sea. I know instantly what she is saying. I don't want to leave her. I don't want her to leave me. She tells me mind to mind to mind, it's time she goes without me. Hadrafal, farewell. Music of unknown wonders cry farewell as she leaves her spirit with me for safekeeping. I hear a million Hinafal voices speaking in languages lost to my people, weeping in the language of trees, Ogham breeze, oak Celtiberian ease and stones, end of wind, end of bardic poems, crossbones scattered across the earth, Hatkrier, farewell. Symbols, of ciphers of signs, coded in code, encoded in storylines. The last words of 9 grow distant and pale. Almost thin, they grow thin. As human skin, 100 years frail, grows kaolin paper, becomes spiderweb thread hit by hail. Sometimes I feel like I'm the language that just lost its last speaker, not misunderstood, erased, deleted by a friend, impossible to comprehend. Maybe that's what leads me to poetry. To hear the wind, I remember one day on my way to school, I stopped to listen to the wind, and the wind told me, "It's all right to be late." The wind wrapped herself around me and told me, "Create!" And the wind whispered sounds of beauty in my ears. At school, I was sent to the office, and when I told the principal, I was listening to the wind, and the wind told me it was okay if I was late. The principal tried to give me the strap, and that's when I learned the wind is difficult to track. This is how the language of birds is muted, caged, clipped, and capped. We're told we cannot listen. We're told we cannot listen. We're told we cannot listen to the language of the natural world. And maybe that's what poets write poetry about. So let me tell you this. I got up early, really early, before dawn, to see the sunrise at the Glastonbury Tor. I thought I'd have my big mystical moment and maybe take a selfie. So I'm at the Isle of Glass, Anasdran, to explore the Tor before the world wakes. Madame Mayhem of the Airbnb had given me hodgepodge instructions posing as directions, which I followed to the T. Okay, up the winding path they call the Backway Above Road, which could also be called empty, lonely lane in the middle of nowhere with no people or to be seen or heard. Anyway, I rounded the first bend, came across the second sign, veered right, second bend, third sign, forked right, torqued to the right of the fork, and then up the dirt road. I see sheep in the field all a-graze, not mentioned on the hand-drawn map. I'm preoccupied by the 7 rays and waking up. And then I approach this large set of trees, stand of trees. I felt a little iffy breeze, a strange buzz filled the air. Suddenly, the sky's filled with birds, birds, a large number of birds, crows, a growing number of crows. I was swallowed by a Hitchcock shadow of crows. I've never seen so many crows. It was a murder of millions. There were so many crows. The grove trees were covered in black feathers instead of green leaves. I thought, how apropos, brilliant, amazing, excellent. I continued a little full of myself, thankful the crows had come to greet me at the foot of the Tor for my big mystical moment, #metaphor. I thought, I'll speak to them and add to this epic lore. And I started, caw, 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 caw. And they called back, caw, caw. By now, the trees were filled with crows, rows and rows of squawking crows, and who knows what they were saying, because they spoke a different dialect from me. But it was a ruckus, a racket, a hullabaloo from above. And I continued to speak back to the trees. The sky was entirely black. All I could see was bits of blue through the ebony storm of feathers, true blanket of crows, squawking in a language unequal to, and I was too. And there we were, having our spiritual Xanadu. Caw, caw, caw. When suddenly, I felt a chill run up my spine. I got the willies, menacing dread, spidey senses. The crows started to circle faster overhead. It started with one crow, and then another, and then I don't know how many others. The crows started to throw twigs and branches at me, and then they started like pummeling me, and they were throwing little stones that came blasting out of the crow-filled sky, and they were screaming down on me. Suddenly the crows, the crazy crows, were using me as some kind of target practice. I started to run. I buried my head in my arms like in a garbage storm in New York City. And the branch bombs came down on me, and I lift my face to the storm, and I screamed to the crows in the language of crows, "Stop it! Stop it! Caw! Caw!" All the time they were laughing at me. I could tell they were laughing at me. Obviously, I was speaking a West Coast Canadian dialect. They didn't understand me. Maybe they thought I was saying, "Bring it on, mofos! Is that all you got?" Because I lift my face to the crows, and that's when they started shitting on me. Kid you not. First, 1 poo, and then 2, and then 2 poo became 3, and the crows started dive-bombing me with a 9.3 shitstorm atrocity. They came out of the trees, they came out of everywhere. And what do you do when they're poo-bombing the shit out of you? It was a friggin' corvid crapathon, as the bass turds with a hate-on Aegon blitzed me with the early morning excrement. At the same time, they were mocking me with weird carrion crow laughing, and it was no accident. Ha ha ha! Caw caw caw! We got you with our number 2! Poo poo poo! Suddenly, I was covered in thousands of feces, and they all had little eyes. I was completely desiccated, defecated, and horrified at the same time in the mouth of the maw. All that was left to do was caw! Poo, tap off, poop, tap on. The shitty event ended as abruptly as it started, and poof, the crows were gone. All that was left was poop, plastered all over my clothes and my head before dawn. I looked around. I was freakishly alone. It was a little eerie, post-apocalyptic, like the things last survivors are made of. I couldn't. I continued on my way, wiped my face of carrion disgrace, and before long, I stood at the tip of the Tor, looking down on the mists of Avalon as the sun rose. I completely forgot to take my selfie. After that, I went to High Street. I entered one of those hocusy-pocusy stores, and inside, minding the shop, was a wand-wielding witch dressed in crushed velvet Bordeaux. I asked, "What does it mean when a murder of crows poops all over you?" And she said, "Oh, I thought you were wearing a hat." We howled. She said, "Let me Google that." She searched poop, face, crow. We laughed. No, we cackled, because, I don't know, there was actually a website called Poop, Face, Crow. And that's what we learned when we didn't know before. According to the biggest witch of all, when crows poop on you, it means abundance of all things will rain and fall from the sky in orchards of good luck and wizened wisdom. I looked down at the poo and I said, "Excellent." And she said, "Excrement." I said, "It's poetry." They say we're all born with a song in our hearts to tell us apart, but we stopped singing those songs long ago. Let us learn them now. The lingo of crow. Los logos, it's raining feathers of rune. Thank you very much.